viewers, there's news. There's more information in the form of a deep dive for the MBTA Commuter. That's the new Boston route in America. Before we get into this, I do read these articles to you to improve the accessibility for those who can't or won't go and read it for themselves. Alrighty, first up there's a video of the MBTA. Let's have a quick look. Boston-Worcester. Love to see Fenway Park full of people, I really would. Alrighty, let's get on with the article then. It says, get ready to dive deeper into both the schedule and signalling. I'm doing really badly with my words today. Behind the MBTA Commuter in this article, courtesy of game designer Joe and signalling expert Brandon, who's otherwise known as Cactus Juice when you see him on YouTube. MBTA Commuter schedule and layers. We can see quite a busy view of Boston South Station, heading around the little short loop out to the next one. A comprehensive schedule has been implemented to MBTA Commuter, recreating the cadence of passenger services between Boston South and Worcester Union stations. As in real life, all services departing Boston South are locomotive hauled, with cab cars running east from Worcester or Framingham back to Boston. This must be one of the new ones, because it certainly doesn't look like the old one. So the F40PH, I think it is. Oh no, the HSP46, I apologise. Screenshots show the cabs of both the HSP46 above and the CTC5 cab car below. So this is a decent layout, and you've got the ADU for ATC and Axis in the middle, so that'll be much easier to drive. Be interesting to see how much of the screen's active when we get hold of it. And this is the CTC5 cab car below. Again, a much better layout than the other one, which has got the ADU jammed up in the top right hand corner. Yeah, it should be more interesting. I personally don't like cab cars because, you know, there's no noise. But, you know, people love them. Different things for different folks. On all westbound services, both the HSP46 and the F40PH-3C can be substituted, giving players a choice of traction. Equally, both the CTC3 and CTC5 cab cars can be selected for all eastbound services. Hopefully they fixed the CTC3. To be honest, it's a bit of an abomination since the last set of updates a couple of years ago. The vast majority of services run the length of the line to Worcester, with some services terminating at Framingham and returning to Boston. You can see here an unusual form of operation occurring during peak hours where trains run the wrong road to accommodate a selection of stations featuring only one platform, such as those that run alongside the I-90 highway at Newtonville, West Newton and Auburndale. At other times, trains are required to change tracks. This is something to watch out for players used to running consistently on the same side of the tracks on other American routes. Someone will, of course, call out, oh, that's a bug. And no, they'll just be wrong. But that's okay. Because, you know, not everybody can be clever. Non-revenue services will be playable at both ends of the line, from Worcester to Worcester Yard and from Boston South Station to Southampton Street Yard. Boston South Station will feature AI traffic representing all other MBTA commuter lines that run from there, including Providence, Staunton and Reedville services. Additional service layers. So you can see South Station Boston here with a Amtrak service. Players with the Northeast Corridor Boston-Providence route add-on will also see Amtrak Northeast regional trains hauled by the ACS-64 locomotive and Amfleet passenger cars. Some of these trains will be playable as short non-revenue services using the balloon loop at Boston. Oh, that 5 mile an hour loop. Hideous. The Amtrak's Acela will also appear for players that own the Loco add-on, and some of these will be playable as non-revenue services too. Again, probably around the balloon loop. I don't think I will, but there you go. There's 5 mile an hour. It's not very interesting. Note the screenshot above shows the updated PIS that was not shown in the previous Coming Soon article. Oh, we better have a look then. So it's all white, and it looks like it came from the 90s, so it's probably a good fit. Unlike the previous Boston route, NEC Boston-Providence, the line to Worcester does accommodate regular freight services running west along the line between Framingham and Worcester. As a result, players with a selection of freight route add-ons can unlock more playable and AI services. Players with Horseshoe Curve will be able to run extra playable services where MBTA locomotives haul flat cars, as is sometimes the case in real life. AI freight services can also be seen at CSX's Worcester Intermodal Terminal, located just next to Worcester Union Station. The schedule features a few trains that serve here throughout the day, consisting of Husky, Maxi Stack and Flatbed trailer cars. To unlock the CSX Worcester Intermodal Terminal trains, players require the following add-ons: Horseshoe Curve, Cajon Pass and Sandpatch Grade. So it's mostly AI, with just a couple of playable services by the look, but at least we will see freight, so that's handy. Additional freight services can appear between Framingham and Worcester using stock and locomotives from a wider selection of add-ons to represent the variation of stock and consist that these trains typically run in real life. This includes a small local train heading towards Boston which runs Longhood forward. These additional services are playable. Excellent, but all of the add-ons listed below are required to unlock them. Sandpatch Grade, the BNSF SD70 ACE Loco add-on, Sherman Hill, Horseshoe Curve, and Cajon Pass. Thank you for community member Yuri, who contributed with information related to these freight layers. A single in-game timetable with all layers available to unlock with the relevant add-ons will be present for all players of both 8th and 9th Gen PC platforms. So the implication there is there isn't a reduced timetable for Gen 8s. MBTA Commuter Signalling Introduction. Now the signalling on this route is actually relatively complex, but if you use the track monitor, you will probably be okay. But anyway, we've got the very complex overhead layout at Boston South, or South Boston. The highly anticipated release of MBTA Commuter Boston to Worcester is rapidly approaching, and we wanted to share some details about what you can expect from a signalling perspective. To preface, we designed this route to match the same mid-2019 time period as Boston-Providence. This decision was primarily made to maintain consistency in the scenery and timetable, but had the supplementary benefit of increased signal variance and operational complexity. History. The recent signal history of this line began in 1988 when Conrail, the owner of the line at the time, initiated a signal modernisation project. The first phase of this project extended from Control Point 187 in Schodack, New York, to Control Point 33 in Westborough, Massachusetts. The existing signal system was replaced by one that utilises cab signals, with wayside signals only being present at controlled points. During this period, MBTA commuter rail services terminated at Framingham, so halting the signal modernisation project in Westborough allowed trains lacking cab signals to continue providing passenger services between Framingham and Boston. There's a key thing there. People often complain about the Boston route giving you false indications on the ADU. They're not. There's actually less trackside signals. So you need to look at the ADU. You really do. Whether you've got safety systems turned on or not enforcing it, you need to use it. Otherwise, you'll run up the bum of the train in front of you. By the mid-90s, the majority of MBTA equipment operating out of South Station was equipped with cab signals, which contributed to the launch of passenger services to Worcester in September of 1994. In 1996, the decision was made to restore the second track between Westboro and Worcester and begin another phase of signal modernisation. Once completed, the signal system between Westboro and Control Point 21 in Framingham became cab signal territory, with wayside signals only being present at controlled points. The existing signal configuration between Framingham and Boston was deemed to be unworthy of a replacement at that time. Then in early 2020, the MBTA finished upgrading the signal system between Framingham and Boston. Overall, it took 32 years and 3 separate projects to modernise the signalling for the entire line. Due to the time period in which this route was designed, you're able to experience a wide array of signal types. During the first and second signal modernisation phases, Conrail utilised colour tri-light signals, a trend that continued until the sale of the company in 1999, at which point CSX Transportation acquired track rights. You can see the tri-light symbols there. They always look a bit like a face. That's pareidolia. Our need to see faces in everything. Conrail colour tri-light signals at the west limits of Conrail Point 33 in Westboro, Massachusetts. Each CSX signal project from that point onward utilised colour light signals with a large hood on them, jokingly referred to as Darth Vader signals. You'll see these in areas that CSX has performed infrastructure upgrades, such as the addition of control points 29, 30 and 42. So you can see they have the big hood over the top to make them easier to see in the sun. CSX colour light signals at the west limits of control point 29. There you go. Between Control Point 11, 1 mile west of Auburndale Station and Boston, you'll encounter the ageing searchlight signals that weren't deemed worthy of replacement back in 1996. The ones at Control Point 11, Control Point 3 were preserved after the MBTA completed their signal project in 2020, so a bit of history still remains on that portion of the line. Searchlight signals at milepost 10 in Auburndale, Massachusetts, looking east towards Boston. Poles 101E and 102E. Operations. MBTA Commuter Boston-Worcester takes place before the signal upgrade in 2020, so the signal system you'll contend with is a mixture of traditional wayside signalling and cab signals without fixed wayside signals. When travelling between Boston and Framingham, you'll operate the train according to Northeast Operating Rules Advisory Committee NORAC Rule 261. This means that the track allows for bidirectional travel and that you will control the train according to the indications of the fixed wayside signals you pass. In areas with long distances between wayside signals, this can cause serious slowdowns when following another train. When travelling between Framingham and Worcester, you will operate the train according to NORAC Rule 562. The entire rule is quite lengthy, but essentially you control the train according to your cab signal indication. When passing wayside signals at controlled points, you will control the train according to the indication of the wayside signal aspect. Rule 261 also applies in these areas. Traffic flow in Rule 562 typically is much more efficient. To get a full understanding, refer to the NORAC operating rules. Signal progressions. A signal progression is the sequence of signal aspects in a particular situation. A very common one between Boston and Framingham might look like clear, advance approach, approach, and then stop. The signal progression for each area is unique. Each signal in the route has had its behaviour manually programmed in order to replicate the real-life counterpart as much as possible. In his spare time, I'm surprised he has any, Brandon has created signal programming flowcharts that show exactly how each signal in game will behave in every possible situation. See below for some excerpts and how to interpret them. Brandon intends on releasing the full charts with the launch of this route. So it basically shows what happens with speeds and timings for each of the signals. The above example shows a section of track between Boston Landing and West Newton in the westbound direction towards Worcester. The position of a train, represented by the icon, determines how the preceding signals will behave. Let's use signal point 81W in an example. When a train is occupying the block immediately after the signal, 81W will display a stop and proceed aspect. 71W will display an approach aspect, and 61W will display an approach medium aspect. We'll examine one more before describing what each abbreviation and number means. So it's another one of the charts here. So this is an area where if you're getting really serious about your simulation, you can certainly get into all of this, or you can just drive the game. The above example shows a section of track between Grafton and Westborough in the eastbound direction towards Boston. Now we'll use signal CP332E in an example. So where's that one? 331E, 332E down here. No, that's 39. Here it is, 332E, bottom right corner. Very good. When a train is occupying the block immediately after the signal, it will display a stop aspect, and the signal at CP39, which is all the way back here, I think. Or is it all the way? Well, there's two of them. There's 1E and 2E. So I think we're talking about C2E here, so we're probably talking about 39 2E down here. We'll display a clear aspect. This is Rule 562 territory, so the train's cab signal aspect will gradually downgrade as the train gets closer to the stop signal at CP33. As you can see, there are several cut sections between CP39 and CP33, with the cab signals potentially being influenced at each one. So these are the cut signals that he's talking about, each of these. Here's a full breakdown of the abbreviations and numbers used in the charts. Signal aspect C stands for clear, LC, limited clear, MC, medium clear, SC, slow clear, AL, approach limited, AM, approach medium, AS, approach slow, AA, advance approach, A, approach, MA, medium approach, SA, slow approach, R, restricting, SP, stop and proceed, and S is stop. You might think that's too complex for a game, but it's reality. Pulse codes, which determines cab signal aspects. 180 pulses per minute at 100 Hz carrier frequency, no 250 Hz carrier frequency present, will display clear or MAS, which is maximum allowable speed on cab signals. 120 pulses per minute at 100 Hz carrier frequency with no 250 will display approach medium or 45. 75 pulses per minute on 100 Hz carrier frequency with no 250 will display approach 30 on cab signals. No pulse codes present will display restricting or 20 on cab signals. Other abbreviations and terms. CS is a cut section, a track circuit with an insulated joint and no physical signal installed at the track wayside, commonly seen in Rule 562 territory or in Rule 261 territory between wayside signals to further divide signal blocks. CP, a controlled point, a signalled location controlled by the dispatcher, generally an area where trains can switch tracks, also known as an interlocking. Exit, the track circuit at the opposite end of a controlled point or interlocking. Hash SEC, hash 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 greater than hash hash, indicates the presence of a pulse code change a certain amount of time after a train has entered a signal block. Conclusion. This rail line has a long and distinguished history, with signalling only being a small part of it. I spent a great deal of time on research and implementation to ensure you have as accurate of a signal system as possible. Furthermore, I'm open to answering any signal questions you have. He also loves jumping into my streams from time to time, and it really helps out with getting the information right about the signals. So thank you very much to Brandon, aka Cactus Juice. He says, finally, I hope this article got you excited because I'm definitely ready to get back to Boston. Release and live stream, Train Sim World 5 MBTA Commuter Boston Framingham to Worcester route add-on will release on the 12th of November for Xbox One, Xbox Series X and S, PlayStation 4, PlayStation 5, Epic Game Store and Steam for $39.99 US dollars, €35.99 euros and $29.99 Great British pounds, which probably puts us in the vicinity of 60 to 65 on exchange rates at the moment for the Aussies. Stay tuned for the preview stream on the 5th of November. Well, there you go. That's it for Boston, Framingham, Worcester. So you've got some more information. We've seen some more pictures. We've seen a little video. It's looking quite interesting. So, yeah, I'll probably have it to stream. It's releasing on the 12th. If things go the way they usually go, I'll probably have it a couple of days before that, and I'll be allowed to stream it on the 11th. If things go the way they do, usually. We shall see, won't we? Anyway, enjoy yourselves, have fun. I'm quite looking forward to this one. Boston was, or still is actually, my most played route according to the stats. If you want to look at your stats, you can find them on your profile over at Dovetail Live. Alrighty, have fun, folks. See you later. Bye.
We played a game.